We have big news. We have exciting news for you. Tell them what it is, Serena.
We are super excited to announce that we are starting our first membership this January 2024.
Yay! Membership.
So we're excited to let you know that we will be hosting a monthly membership where when you join, you will be
with us live in a Zoom room once a month for a workshop like we just hosted. It's going to be a workshop like that, one topic each month, a different topic. You might even help us come up with the following month's topic from inside our membership. Super excited to meet you. It was so fun meeting a few of you in our inaugural workshop. So we're really looking forward to that.
And when you are a member, you will also be receiving a monthly newsletter where I'm going to be a little more intimate and I'll be sharing the things that are working and the things that aren't working for me.
Yeah, like taking a tool that you've learned from the podcast and how you're implementing it and how well that worked, or maybe if it didn't work. And then Amma can put in my 2 bits worth. We'll see how that goes. But a membership newsletter and a membership live Zoom room workshop starting in January 2024. Can sign up through our Patreon link in the show notes, yeah?
Yes, everything will be in the show notes, and we can't wait to see you there, listeners.
We can't wait. Yay!
Hey parents, welcome to the Nurturing Parent Podcast. Today for episode number 98, we're almost at 100. Anyways, today for episode number 98, we're talking about why you shouldn't say don't or no to your kids and the importance of refraining from these negative phrases. And before I even had kids, I heard about not saying no to your kids, and I thought that sounded absolutely ridiculous. And I'm happy to say that I popped on the train of why you really shouldn't say no and don't to your kids. So we hope that you hop on as well and stay tuned for this week's episode. All right, let's get into it.
Hey, Mama, welcome to the Nurturing Parent Podcast. Do you want to end the constant battles for bath time? Do you find yourself emotionally exhausted at the end of the day? Do you wake up with big hopes for a smooth day of fun with your little ones, only to face an early morning meltdown because you peeled their banana the wrong way?
Silly you.
Silly you.
Hey, I'm Serena. I am a mama of 2 little ones, and as a new mama, I constantly question myself. I wanted to make sure I was raising respectful kids while also building a strong bond with them. But I discovered that I had to unlearn my ideas that punishment was the way. With Lisa's encouragement, I've been practicing a respectful and gentle parenting approach, which is strengthening our bond as a family.
And hi, I'm Lisa. Amma means grandmother in Icelandic. I am a mama and an Amma. And I have over 40 years of experience in childcare and parent coaching. And I am so excited to share the knowledge I've gained over these years with you.
Together in this podcast, each week we will explore some easy to implement skills you can add to your parenting tool belt to help you create a happy, thriving family. So I heard something the other day, and it really made me think about the way that I talk to my daughter. And it was that our kids think in pictures. So if I'm telling my daughter, don't jump on the couch, she's going to see a picture of her jumping on the couch, and she's going to continue jumping on the couch. And so I try to think in pictures before I try to get a message to her, or I want her to do something. And so I thought that was very pivotal in changing my way of speaking to her, because once I learned that and she was jumping on the couch, I said, sit on the couch. And she did right away. And I was like, wow.
That's awesome. Okay. We're going to look today at the word don't. And we're going to look at the brain science behind why saying don't jump on the couch doesn't work. And that whole concept that our children see in pictures, I see in pictures. I don't know about you, Mama Serena. I don't know about you, listener, but I know that I see in pictures.
Yeah, I'm a visual person.
Yeah. And I think a lot of our brains see that way. And for sure, knowing that our children see that way, I love that you took that little nugget of information and saw how to put it into use in your parenting world. Beautiful. So I got really excited about my research into this topic because I've been teaching parents, encouraging parents for decades to avoid using the words no and don't. And as we've said before, sometimes you need that word no, no, don't walk a step further. There's a busy road. No, right? So that word occasionally is very useful. And the more often we use it, or the word don't, the less often it's going to have the effect that we want. So we've talked about that before, but today we're going to focus on this word don't. And I got to do some deeper research into the brain science, which goes behind all the years that I've been encouraging parents to avoid these words. I'm so excited.
I'm excited too because learning the actual science and the stuff behind it helps us really want to implement these things.
Yes. Yes. Okay. So here's what I know now. Our brains cannot focus on a negative request. When we say don't do something, don't jump on the couch, as your example, our brain goes to what all the possibilities are instead of what we don't want them to do. So instead of jumping on the couch, there's a gazillion possibilities of what we might do right now. And that overwhelms our brain. And we can't actually choose one because there's a gazillion. So what our brain does is it chooses the information that we just heard. Jump on the couch. So that's a little bit different than the seeing in pictures idea that you had learned recently. But this is what I learned in the brain science behind it is the brain is overwhelmed by, if I can't do that, what are all the possibilities? And I'm freaking out because there's too many possibilities. Like there's anything. Okay, I'm going to focus on what I just heard. Jump on the couch.
It's like I tell my husband, if I were to tell my husband, don't, because he works in sanitation, don't throw the garbage out that way. And he's like, I don't know how to do it any other way. What do I do? The only way I know how to do it is the way I've been doing it. And then the only way he can continue doing it is the way he's been doing it. Because what do you mean don't do it that way? I don't know any other way.
Right. Yes. So, and that is what we'll get into when we get into the positive ways to phrase things. It's we want to give them the information of what we want them to do or how we want something to be done instead of the negative. But before we go into that, I want to say, don't think of a purple elephant. Don't think of a purple elephant. No. Don't think of, I said, don't think of a purple elephant. What's happening in your brain right now?
A big purple elephant is just splashing in my face.
That's what our brains do. They don't understand that don't. Part of what's happening in the brain also is what they call in the study of linguistics. So language, in the study of linguistics, it's called feature deletion. And what that refers to is how we hear things. Sometimes we hear the first part of what's being said. Almost never do we hear the middle part, very rarely. And almost always we hear the last part. That's how our auditory works. That's how hearing actually seems to work in brain science, in the science of linguistics. Who knew? And you just told me something before we started recording, that if somebody's giving you
whenever my dad talks to me, whenever he tells me something to do, it's like I tune him out when he's saying the most important part, and then I have to call him back and then say, what was that you wanted me to do again?
Exactly. And you're an adult who's been listening for however many years, right? And maybe that's a pattern with your dad too, because I think that your dad said don't a lot and gave you negative direction a lot. And so maybe your brain, especially with him, is geared to not listen. Right?
I would think so.
So here's another amazing thing to know about these negative words and negative phrases that we throw at our children all day long. And we'll look at all the different places we might be saying, don't do this and don't do that. Don't whine at me. Don't climb on the couch like that. Don't jump on the couch. Don't run in the house. Like the list goes on and on. We'll touch on more later. When we use negative words and phrases, what happens in our bodies is stress hormones get released. And they learned this by doing a study with people with their brains hooked up to the electrodes that read the brain messaging. And even when they flashed the word no in front of somebody's eyes, the brain sent out stress hormones, activated the stress hormones. That's amazing to me, even just reading that word no. When it's a spoken word, when it's spoken with an angry tone, when it's spoken with a loud voice or a yell or a scream or, a frustrated sound, all those things add to the level of stress that is immediately going to be pumping through your child's body. That's incredible to me, that piece of information. Because even if we say without an angry yelling tone, if we say, don't jump on the couch, we'll just keep using that example. Or don't stand up in the bath. That's a good one because it's a safety related one as well, right? Don't play with your food. Don't hit your sibling. Don't hit your brother. Don't, whatever it is.
Don't put that rock in your mouth.
Right. Even when we say it without a huge amount of aggression in our tone, here's what happens when we have stress hormones now suddenly racing through our bodies. Stress hormones interrupt our normal brain functioning, okay? It decreases our ability to communicate because it decreases our language processing abilities. We lose our ability for reasoning and for logic. So as soon as you say, don't jump on the couch, it's dangerous, you're going to fall and hurt yourself, whatever it is, they're not going to be able to hear the reasoning and the logic because what's happening is the brain has shifted back into the amygdala, the old part in the back of the brain, and that prefrontal cortex that we often talk about isn't engaged anymore just because the stress hormones have been released. So it's like that fight or flight has been activated, right? Mm-hmm. Even if we're frowning or have an angry expression on our face, there's going to be more stress hormones. And especially if we raise our voice or use a really angry tone. And so you can see by that piece of information that when we say don't or no, then our child's ability to reason with us, to adhere to what we're saying, to communicate with us has all just flown out the window. They're not able to be present with us.
And when we say don't, usually what we're wanting is the opposite of that. So
yes. Yes. So that's the whole thing. If you put those two things together, the release of the stress hormones and the fact that all they can see in their mind, like you pointed out, or hear is that last part of the sentence, jump on the couch, then that's what we're going to get more of. Don't shove your sister. Well, guess what? There's another shove coming, right?
What'd you say,
Yes.
shove?
Don't throw those toys. And then the toys get thrown more and more and harder and further away. And they might end up in somebody's eyeball. And so what do we do instead? Now that we know this information, how can we shift this? Do you have thoughts, Mama Serena?
So, like when you said, don't think of a big purple elephant, you can tell us what you want us to think of instead. And
I love this really simple tool that we're going to give you today. And it's really just about giving information. A tiny bit, 1 or 2 sentences. Couches are for sitting on.
yeah, or like the rock in the mouth, because my daughter was licking a rock the other day. So rocks
Right.
are not for licking. You can paint the
Yes.
rock. We can put the rock outside.
Right. If there's a puddle around, you could throw the rock in a puddle and see the splash. And if you just say rocks are not for licking, and then Mama, bite your tongue, because maybe they'll come up with some ideas. Or if they want to lick it again, she goes to lick it again. Oh, rocks are not for licking. So can you come up with some ideas of what else we could do with that rock? It seems like you're really excited or interested in that rock. In that particular rock, you've got something going on. What else could we do with that rock? Right? So give them an opportunity. And if you want, it's not a bad thing to say, I wonder if you would like to paint that rock at home. We could bring it home and you could do that. If they're really insistent on it going back in the mouth, and it's not the cleanest thing to put in the mouth. So positive words, again, in the brain science, what they do, positive words and phrases, is they inspire the motivation centers in the brain. So when we want to redirect a behavior that's happening, wouldn't it be great if we could inspire their motivation centers?
Oh, yeah.
They would be motivated to do what we're requesting. They can also, all of us, we can also listen better if we get positive phrases. If you're giving somebody a critique, the very best thing to do is to give the positive critique first. If you need to give some less than positive critique, you always lead with the positive, right? Because we can listen better if we get that positive first. It opens up our listening centers, our motivation centers. And in doing that, in opening up the motivation centers, it helps us build resilience when we hear positive phrases. We can also set clearer boundaries when we affirm what they can do. So don't jump on the couch doesn't give them, it gives them a boundary of what they can't do, but it doesn't give them the parameter of what they can do. And that's really what we want to give children. They can feel safe if they have a parameter of what is allowed, what they can do, right? I just think maybe we should brainstorm on a few places in the day that we might say the don't word and just come up with a few alternative ways of saying things. So right now it's been raining a lot where I live. I'm imagining there might be wet boots coming in from jumping in puddles, wet coats coming in. And I'm hoping that you have a spot where your children can hang up their coats, little pegs down at their child level in the entranceway. If you don't have that, I strongly encourage it. And a shelf to put the boots on, or a certain spot where the boots go. So when you come in and the boots get kicked off because they're running in because they need to go to the toilet, or they need to get a snack because they're starving or they're cold or whatever that is, and the boots get left in the doorway. Oh, Boots go on the shelf. I see a coat dropped on the floor. Coats go on the hook. So you give them the information. You can very simply describe what you see in that I see a coat on the floor. When you do that and you've already established where the child's coat goes, just giving them the description of what you see allows them to go, oh, wait, I better hang up my coat. Instead of constantly telling them, don't drop your coat on the floor. Your coat needs to get hung up over there. How many times do I have to tell you your coat goes on the hook? If you can simply say, I see a coat on the floor.
Yeah, you really changed it from nagging them to just getting them to want to do it. Like the coat's on the floor.
Giving them the information. Yes. And what it does is it encourages intrinsic motivation.
Mm-hmm.
So that motivation that comes from inside the child to do it, rather than the extrinsic motivation, which is us nagging at them all the time. And that doesn't make any of us happy.
No, and it just separates you more and more.
Yes, it causes separation and it doesn't work. Extrinsic motivation is not the way. So giving them information when you're starting, I want you, if you don't have a place for your child to hang up their wet coat when they come in this autumn and winter, please see if you can make that happen. Whether it's a hook by the door or a hook in your room, whatever it is, find a place where they can do that. If you can do that in the bathroom where they can hang up their own towel, that's a good idea too. So having all these ways where they can be independent about doing things, and then give them that information. Here's where your coat goes. And if they're very little toddlers, 2-year-olds hanging up their coat on a hook, or a 1.5-year-old like you have, Serena, she'd be able to learn to hang up a coat on her own little hook if it's at the right level, and to put the boots right beside, right under her coat or wherever they go. So make sure your children know what's expected within that very clear boundary, and then give them the information. So when you say, I see a coat on the floor, you guys, I really, really did this a lot with my daughter. And almost always she would go, oh, and she'd go pick up her coat and hang it on the hook. If she didn't, my next step would be, your coat, because she knows what comes after. You don't need to say the whole thing every time. And if she still doesn't listen, would you like to hang your coat up by yourself, or would you like me to come with you to hang it up this time? And then you take her hand and you walk with her to where she needs to pick her coat up. And you do it with her. And maybe there's a reason why she's not doing it independently, and that's okay too. Anyway, I diverge a little bit from the don't, but putting them into the positive ways of speaking is really, really, really the way to go.
Yes, and I just wanted to add one more thing, is that sometimes you have to think, is it worth the battle? Like the jumping on the couch, I really don't care if my daughter jumps on the couch. I tested that out because I wanted to test out the picture thing, and she was jumping on the couch just like I had heard earlier. So I tried.
Wow.
Yeah. But it's just picking your battles. The other
Wait,
day,
when you say you tried it, did you try saying don't jump on the couch and then she kept jumping?
no, I didn't. I just tried giving her the other one, and she sat down right away.
Give her the direction. Yeah. Okay, good. Okay. I just wanted to clarify that. Yeah.
And the other day, my husband was telling her she couldn't bring something. Don't bring that in the car. And I gave him the look, like, it's not that serious. It's like, maybe it was a doll. If the doll wanted, he was like, don't bring the doll. Leave the doll here. And I was just like, it's fine.
I love that, because we do need to look at, why are we asking our child not to jump on the couch, not to bring the dolly? Those kinds of things. Some people are worried that a child might fall if they're jumping on the couch. So it might be a safety thing for them, for you. It might be worried about the couch getting, ruined over time with children jumping on it. And yes, it's not what couches were designed for, but maybe you didn't buy a high-end couch and you don't really care. So it's going to be your own personal decision. Now, if you allow them to jump on the couch at your house and you go to grandma's house and she definitely doesn't allow jumping on the couch, then your child gets to learn that in different environments, there are different ways of being. So at grandma's couch, at grandma's house, we save jumping for when we're outside. We sit on grandma's couch. Couches are actually made for sitting on. So you give them a bit of information, right? And sometimes I also want to say, if they're jumping on the couch and you're don't do that, don't jump on the couch, or in the case with your husband saying don't bring the dolly, like who knows what was causing him to say don't do that. We need to look at what we are reacting to.
Right.
Maybe we're frustrated in the moment. Maybe somebody treated us poorly an hour ago. Maybe something at work happened that upset us. Maybe our partner said something to us that really hurt our feelings and we're feeling a little snappy. And maybe what we're doing is, it's called the pecking order. So somebody snapped at me. I'm now snapping at my child. Don't look at me like that. Don't talk to me like that. Don't jump on the couch. And it's just actually because we're snappy.
Yep.
So if you hear those,
I think my husband was tired that day and he was a little grumpy.
there you go. There you go. Exactly. And when we're tired and grumpy, which we get fairly frequently as parents of young children, we just need to be more aware of, where is that don't coming from? Is it important? And like you said, Serena, choose your battles. Because if this isn't something you want to battle about, back up. And if you notice yourself saying a don't, and then you go, whoa, where did that one come from? Because now that we've talked about don't, you're going to hear it all week. And when you hear it, you can look, where did that come from? Why am I saying don't? Is it a safety issue? Okay, how can I reword it? And tripping over boots in front of the doorway is a safety issue. So yeah, the boots need to go on the shelf or wherever they go. And if it's because I'm tired, you can say, oh, wow, of course Dolly can come on for a car ride. I'm sorry, Daddy's just tired right now. And that don't just slipped out. So remember, you can apologize, you can redo, you can start over and do it a whole different way. Anyway, have fun with this. Notice yourself saying don't. Remember what it's doing to the brain of the recipient of that don't, and see how many ways you can rephrase into positive ways of saying things. We wish you luck and fun with this. Anything else, Mama Serena?
Don't say don't.
Don't say don't. Wait, don't. All right. Well, we will say we love you and we'll talk to you next week.
All right. So I'm going to share my 3 quick gems and I hope that you have hopped on board. But if not, I just want to remind you, number 1, that don't really just has the opposite effect of what we're aiming for. So I hope this week you're going to start acknowledging your don'ts and your no's, and you'll be more aware, because that is the first step. And then number 2 is that instead of saying don't and using these negative phrases, we should be using positive words or just giving information, which is very neutral. Because this will encourage their intrinsic motivation, and that's getting them what we want them to do when we're saying don't do this, don't do that. And then lastly is lead with positive. And I thought this was a great tool for just communication, either with your partner or anybody if you're working in a group. But lead with positive first to open up their listening. So if we want our kids to listen, it's truly going to help if we say it in a positive way, not with an angry face or a frown, but if we try to keep it more positive.
All right, mamas. This is episode number 98. So 2 more episodes away from our 100th. And we just want to thank you so much. This is really exciting for us. And we want to thank you so much for being here along the journey, joining us, getting to know us, and listening to us. So thank you so much, mamas. And we'll see you again next week, where we're going to be talking all about tantrums. So I hope to see you there.